Hey, what's up guys? It's Tyrex from pixelsHQ, and today we're going to be seeing if Shadow of the Tomb Raider is still worth your time in 2025. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So I'm going to be honest, I had a lot of fun on this game. This was my first playthrough, and personally, I really enjoyed it. The climbing was awesome, the story was great, and the action was intense and challenging. And I know this game is older, seeing as it released in 2018, but the game itself still looks beautiful. Like I said, this was my first playthrough, and I thought it was honestly really cool, and if you watch all the cutscenes, it kind of feels like a really well put together movie. This game is very linear, if that makes sense, but you can go back to different parts of the map and complete challenges and collect various hidden items that you missed. But depending on what you like, this might be right up your alley. I personally really enjoyed it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the parkour. The parkour and climbing was really satisfying. The movement had an auto lock system that was very snappy and easy to understand. I don't know how to explain it, you'd have to just play it. But your grappling hook and jumps, they just snapped onto your target, and it was very intuitive and it felt very fluid. I don't know, it was very enjoyable. There were various obstacles to climb, and they were all easily distinguishable from the rest of the terrain. So for example, the rocks that you could rock climb would be a little bit rougher than the rest of the material, and walls that you could run up would have white paint, so they would easily contrast from the environment. And the sound effects were so satisfying. I don't know how else to explain it other than satisfying. Parkour and climbing was a huge part in this game, and there was different scenes that you would climb. Like sometimes it would be construction equipment, sometimes it would be the side of a mountain, and sometimes it would be burning buildings. And there wasn't a lot of different moves you could do, but the moves that you could do were just so well done. You just get happy every single time you have to climb. The climbing and the parkour was definitely one of my favorite parts of this game. I thought it was cool sometimes it would have you running and doing parkour at the same time. So without giving too many spoilers, for example, you'd be running from a landslide, and all the terrain is shifting and moving and falling while you're running, and it's so cinematic and immersive, it almost feels like a cutscene, but you're in control of it, if that makes sense. It's so good. But yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is the puzzles, because obviously being a Tomb Raider game, you're gonna have some puzzles. There were honestly less puzzles than I was expecting, but there was still a decent amount. I would say off the top of my head, there was about 5 noteworthy puzzles that I remember, which don't get me wrong, is a decent amount for a 12-hour game. I personally think the puzzles were great, they were challenging, they felt rewarding when you finally figured them out, and they were all very unique. Sometimes you'd be opening doors, and sometimes you'd be moving chess pieces, but each puzzle felt unique and had a lot of personality. And they were just the right mixture of challenging and easy to understand. You would definitely have to be observant and make sure you take in the entire challenge before making any moves. And I think that's exactly how a puzzle game should be. The next thing I want to talk about is swimming, and I'm just going to say there was a lot of swimming in underwater areas. And with there being so many underwater areas and there being so many swimming scenes, I kind of feel like they didn't do enough. It's hard to think about what more they could have done with the swimming aspects of the game, but I feel like with there being so many water moments in the game, there was just a lack of depth to them. Like sure, sometimes there was falling rocks and collapsing caves, but as long as you kept moving, you would never get hit by them, and everything was easy to dodge. And okay, sometimes you might be about to run out of air, but there's always an air pocket right when you need it. And after you get the upgrade in your skill tree for longer underwater breath, I just feel like I didn't die one time while I was underwater. As long as you just follow the lights, you'll always just swim fast enough. And it almost felt like a safe travel system. Kind of like, okay, now there's a break from all the stress, and I get it, like that's cool. But for an action game, I kind of expected a little more challenge. But don't get me wrong, the underwater scenes are beautiful, the lighting is great, it's immersive, so I'm not going to complain too much about the swimming. But I do feel like they could have done more with the underwater scenes, seeing how many of them there were in the game. But compared to how many things they did right in the game and how intense the action actually is, I can see why you might want a safe travel, easy-going transition on some of these levels, because the action is so intense. And there's so many things they did right in this game, and the action was definitely one of them. The action scenes were always something to look forward to. There's just something so satisfying about getting a headshot and knocking off the enemy's helmet, only to shoot him in the head again. I don't know, the sound effects are so satisfying, and that was just really enjoyable for me. A lot of the enemies wore armor, so body shots would take multiple shots, but if you shot them in the head, it'd be one shot every time. But like I said, most of them were wearing helmets, so you'd have to knock off their helmet first. But honestly, you just feel like a beast when you get 2 headshots in a row. One thing I will say though, is that I noticed for a lot of the stealth missions, you could actually just firefight the enemies, kind of like Gears of War instead of actually being sneaky. Almost like being stealthy is an option. I mean, which is fine for those of us that like more traditional action opposed to stealth missions. It's kind of like an option. Like, hey, you could be stealthy, but you could also just mow everybody down with an automatic rifle. I don't know, but there were some times where you'd be low on resources, so you'd have to kind of be stealthy. Like if you were low on ammo, you definitely couldn't make it through a whole army of bad guys, so you'd have to use your stealth tactics sometimes. But for the most part, I was able to just brute force my way through a lot of these stealthy action sequences. One thing that helped me out for sure is a skill that you get in the skill tree, which would make you invulnerable for a short period of time after you healed, so you could kind of abuse the healing mechanic to just John Wick through armies of bad guys. But honestly, that's one of the only skills in the skill tree that felt impactful. To me, the skill tree felt really lackluster, and I felt most of the skills were completely pointless. And if I didn't upgrade any points at all, I still would have been able to beat the game with no problems. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple good skills, like breathing underwater for longer definitely came in clutch. And there was another one like killing 2 enemies with a stealth kill that turned out to be really good. But for the most part, there weren't very many notable skills, and I felt very underwhelmed. And I actually had the same problem with the weapons upgrades. I just felt like the weapons upgrades didn't feel important either. I never found myself trying to get more materials to get the upgrades, and I didn't ever know what I needed to make the next upgrade either. And before you guys flame me in the comments, I know you can see what you need to make the upgrade, but I really never paid attention to it. Like whenever I was at a campfire, if there was an upgrade available, I would upgrade with the materials I had, but I wouldn't look beforehand, and I would never go out of my way to collect more materials for a specific upgrade. It feels the same as the skill tree. Like if I'd never upgraded my weapons at all, I would have had no problems beating the game. And a lot of times you would buy new weapons from merchants, so all your upgrades would just reset anyway. And there was multiple times in the game where Lara would lose her resources and you'd have to reset to new weapons anyway. So I don't know, it kind of felt like the weapons upgrades were irrelevant to me. But I still got excited every time I saw a campfire. And I want to note there is a fast travel system, but to complete the main storyline, it's not needed. I guess if you want to go back and collect all the hidden items and beat previous areas to 100%, that's what that's used for. But like I said, to complete the main storyline, you don't need this at all. It's a very linear game. You're pretty much following a story all the way to the end of the game like a movie. And the story was one of the main aspects of this game, and they did it very well. There was a couple of times when they would say a name and I wouldn't know exactly who they're talking about, but that's probably just me not paying attention hard enough. But this is a game where I didn't skip any cutscenes. The cutscenes were immersive, and it never felt like we were wasting time not getting story information. Like every cutscene was leading to the next plot point or developing internal character arcs. Like I said, I didn't skip any of the cutscenes, and there were some really emotionally charged scenes that left me excited to keep playing for sure. Like I said, this is like a 12-hour long movie, and I think they did a really good job with the story, and I honestly think that's what you're aiming for with a game like Tomb Raider. In short, the question is, would I recommend the Shadow of the Tomb Raider? And the obvious answer is yes, absolutely. I think for anybody who's a fan of the OG games or even the movies, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a must play. But it's not only for the hardcore fans. If you're a casual gamer and you enjoy action puzzle games and you haven't played this game yet, I definitely recommend trying it out. I played it on PC, but it's also compatible with Xbox and PlayStation. Anyways, guys, on that note, that's all for me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. And if you disagree with anything, drop a comment. I would love to read what you guys have to say. Anyways, guys, this is Tyrex signing off. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.